Well, welcome back to the garden. Today I wanted to give you guys a quick fall garden tour, but before we do that, I wanted to introduce to you officially our newest member of our homestead, and you guys picked her name. We decided on naming her Molly. So now we have Maggie and Molly, and she is just precious, isn't she? It's that time of hour when she really wants to play. And she has just been the best puppy ever. We couldn't ask for anything. And she sleeps the night. For a few days we were getting some sleep, but between 11 and 7 she's sleeping the night. So Doug and I are very, very happy about that. It's been a while since we've been in the garden, so let's get a fall garden tour. One of the best things I love about the garden, especially the fall garden, is just the aroma. Because your herbs are maturing and they're getting bigger and bigger, and it just smells so heavenly. And one of my herbs that I absolutely adore is my Thai basil. And if you guys aren't growing this, it is something, it's beautiful, it's wonderful for pollinators. Even to, let's say you don't want to use it if you're maybe cooking Thai food or you're cooking, just to grow it for the pollinators and just the smell, it's just so wonderful. Here in my little herb patch, I have Thai basil, I have dill, I have lemon basil, I have some oregano, I have some sage, I have some holy basil. I planted this in early August, and look how beautiful it looks, and it's only the first week in October. Now over here, I had some tomatoes, and I haven't taken them out since then, but the nasturtiums have gone crazy. I like to use the nasturtiums for my salads, the flowers, but then I went ahead and planted some sugar snap peas, and they look great. They're popping up, they're really good, and they're doing really well. A lot of times in the springtime here, we start with the sugar snap peas, and it starts to get too hot, and then they don't do very well. But these guys are doing great. Now this is the Florence lettuce, and it's a romaine type lettuce, and I try to plant a lot of different greens because they are pretty cooled and cold tolerant. So I try to grow as much as I can, and I grew it just very quickly. So this time of year is the best time to grow your lettuces and your greens. And here's one of my favorite areas, is my little cilantro patch. Cilantro sometimes tastes like soap to some people, and some people it doesn't, because genetically there's something that people have that makes it taste like soap. But luckily majority of the people don't think it tastes like soap, because I love it. It's a great heavy metal detoxifier. And I like to grow it early in the spring because it does like it a little cooler, and then I plant it in my fall garden, and look how beautiful it goes. And it can take a few light frosts, and it lasts very, very well. A little while back I had done a video, and I was showing how I kind of gave my kale a haircut, and I had just cut all of the leaves off because when we had got back from the Heirloom Expo, the cabbage worms had eaten all of my kale. So I went ahead and cut it all off, and then now I'm getting all new fresh leaves growing on it. And I'm really careful about looking about those cabbage worms and pulling them off if I find them now. Kale does great in this cool weather, especially with some light frost. It does great. So I just keep mine rocking as long as I can do it. Like I was saying earlier, I love greens, and they are very cool tolerant. So I try to plant as much as I can. Here is one of my arugula beds, and I love arugula, and a lot of these greens that are good for you do have a little bit of a bitter bite to them. But in the fall, when it gets cooler, it really mellows the taste, and actually your kales and your arugula and things like that taste much, much more milder and kind of sweeter to the taste. This is like a smorgasbord in here. I got dill, and I have arugula, and then look at this, I still have lots of eggplants coming in. They're doing really good, as well as a ton of different varieties of peppers that are just rocking. I have so many peppers, and if you guys didn't check out, I did a fermenting video on peppers. Go back and check that out too. I want to talk to you guys about something because I had never grown these before. Do you see these guys here? I had never planted these. These are giant chili peppers, and they are my favorite because they're not quite as hot as a jalapeno. So if you just want just a little zing to your meal, these have been definitely my favorite. So I'm gonna for sure save a bunch of these seeds, and I'm gonna be growing these again next year. This is a Stacy's pick.
Y'all, this is so sweet. Maggie brought her out here and showed her where she stashed one of her little bones, and she let her have it so she can come and have a little bone in the garden. Oh my gosh, you can't make this stuff up. That was so sweet, Maggie. You're such a good girl. Good girl. That was so nice. You are so nice. Good girl. Back to your regularly scheduled programming.
Now earlier I had given my Swiss chard a haircut too, and look at it, it's coming back strong. So this is another green that's gonna last a while as it does get cooler in the season. So I love it. It does end up tasting much more mild, and we use it in so many dishes, sauteing it in butter, or just even putting it and chopping it up and putting it in a salad. A lot of you guys were asking, why aren't we doing Back to Eden Garden anymore? Well, because it was just too much for us. You know, trying to get the soil right year after year, you're planting all this stuff, things weren't successful, you know, you try to amend it, you try to do everything right, and it was very labor intensive with all the wood chips, you know, and we're looking at, you know, aging in place. And from day one, these raised beds have just been so easy. I just need to top dress them, you know, during the, you know, winter months, and then in the springtime, we can go ahead and just plant right in them. I mean, I am all about the raised beds. So what we're gonna be doing now over where we have the Back to Eden Garden, we're gonna be adding a lot more raised beds, and I'm really looking forward to it, and we're gonna add the river rock, and it's gonna be gorgeous. So stay tuned for that one. Now I wanna show you, this is probably my most favorite part of my fall garden, because I had never tried it before, and this was the first year I did it. And I tried the Zucchini Rampicanti, which is an Italian heirloom zucchini squash. And I had this huge cattle panel, a heavy duty cattle panel that arched over. And this thing, in a matter of like a week, started producing these big, huge fruits. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't even believe it. And I came out here just a little while ago because it was up earlier today, and look what it did. It totally collapsed. This is just one of them. I mean, I got a ton in there. Isn't it amazing? And then when you hang these, you know, on an arbor or trellis, they're straighter. But I want to show you what happens when you just let it go. They get in the coolest shapes. It's so much fun. One of these we had yesterday, the grandkids came over, and it was as tall as my 3-year-old granddaughter. I mean, aren't they cool? Now, the younger that you will harvest these things, they'll be more like a zucchini type squash. But if you let them go a little bit more, the skins will get thicker and they'll get a little bit more lighter in color. And then that way you can store them more like a winter squash, and it will last, and it has more of a taste, kind of like a butternut type squash. So that's what I love about it, because it's so versatile, and you can cook it. The seeds are down here, and you can just kind of slice it and saute it or bake it. So this is definitely Stacy's pick. And another thing, guys, is, you know, if you're planting a fall garden, don't forget about the flowers. My zinnias just popped. The zinnias are doing good. My beets are doing great, and I love to plant beets all throughout the season. Beets are a great crop. You can go spring, summer, and fall. And the beet greens are great to eat as they're developing, and then as the beet gets big, of course, you're gonna get the actual beet root.
Get it, Molly, get it. Get it, Molly. Get that bone, get it. Get it, Molly. She's so sweet.
Come on, Molly. And then a little note about this tomato cage that we did. I love it the way we had the strings hanging from it. It worked very well. We get very strong winds here, and then when it gets windy, it really kept the tomatoes from cracking or breaking because it just kind of went with the wind. So I definitely are going to do this on another bed that Doug's going to make for me. But I planted some sunflowers again for a second time. Some people just do it one time in the season. I'm planting some, and they're getting ready. I can start seeing flowers here. I planted some of these, as well as zinnias in here, and some lettuce leaf basil. It's doing really good. And then look at the sweet potatoes. Yes, sweet potatoes are one of our favorites around here. So I love it because you can eat the greens, and we'll be harvesting our sweet potatoes pretty soon, probably in the next couple weeks. Well, we've already started to reclaim the Back to Eden garden. We put some of this billboard tarp down here because we're going to add quite a few more raised beds throughout here. And then over here we added some herbs. Yeah, there are a few things that did okay in the Back to Eden. So like my comfrey does great. It's a nitrogen fixer. It's wonderful to have in your garden. And also the mallow is doing wonderful. So I'm going to keep a lot of these things that are already doing well here and not move them because they'll just get bigger and bigger. And then we're just going to put river rock around here. So I'm really looking forward to this. I'm going to kind of have a this little herb area. I'm going to have a flower part garden. We're going to have a whole garden bed for garlic. So this is really going to turn out. We're going to kind of get it all planned and get us ready and rocking for spring. Molly and I are having a good time. This is the best time, the golden hour, you know, when the sun starts to go down. It's the best time to come to your garden and just kind of hang out and pick things and just kind of, you know, decide what I'm going to do maybe for next year. But one thing I wanted to talk about is having a fall garden. There's so many people that don't do it. And if I had to maybe pick, I think I would rather even have a fall garden because the weather is really conducive. You can grow a lot if you have a longer growing season, that is. But I just love it. And if you haven't tried a fall garden, it is pretty simple. You know, you can throw in all the lettuces and your greens. Parsley does amazing. I try to do a bunch of parsley because it is very cold tolerant. I'll put you down. But you know, if you haven't tried it, it's something that you might want to do next year. I'm kind of amazed sometimes. We live around the Amish, nobody does a fall garden. And you can get so much produce in this small amount of time. So I'm really happy with my garden. So that was just like kind of a quick fall garden tour. But I have one more thing I want to show you. And here is my favorite bean. It's called the Chinese red noodle bean. And I just love it, and it's still producing. And the one thing with these guys is if you keep picking them, they will just keep producing, and I could not keep up. You can see a lot of them already dried, and I'll just save them and give them to other friends to grow in their garden too, because I'll have a lot of them. But they're still producing, so Doug and I have been having a lot of stir fry with some Swiss chard and then these, and it's been great. So I'm really happy with it. Well, thanks for hanging out with me and the fall garden tour. Hope you guys have a great day, and we'll see you on the next video.